welcome to Spotlight. I'm Poonam Sharma. Our guest for today is India's High Commissioner to Singapore, Mr. Javed Ashraf. Mr. Ashraf is a rare breed of Indian Foreign Services officer who's also an MBA from the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Indian community in Singapore is a big fan of his oratory skills and shows, and if I may call his speaking engagements that run full house. Thank you so much for talking to us, sir, today. You've been in Singapore for last couple of months, 9 or 10 months? 9 months to be precise. Did you feel a special welcome to this city given that it has the highest density of ex-IIMs in the world?
I think yes. I mean, Singapore, well, of course, my arrival here was in the works for a long time, so people were aware that I was coming. This city, generally, country, and people are very open, very welcoming, and particularly the Indian community here. It's a large, very vibrant community, very diverse. It has come here at different points of history, and of course, so I'd say that there was a very broad welcome, very warm welcome from the entire cross section of the Indian community. But obviously, there is a special affinity with the IIM community. It's a very large. I was myself very surprised how large it is over here. There would be anything upwards of 1,800 to 2,000 IIM alumni, and so I must say that in some sense I was the latest recruit and the newest recruit to the IIM Alumni Association in Singapore. They welcomed me really warmly. There was a gala dinner in January by the IIM Alumni Association. Sanjeev Iyer, the president, was very generous and kind in hosting it. And then subsequently the IIM Ahmedabad Alumni Association, which is also fairly large by itself over here, gave a special welcome. But I think in a broader level, what is more important is that I see the presence of such an outstanding group of professionals here, not just from IIMs, but also from IITs, which has got a very large community, but from other outstanding professional institutions in India, here as an extraordinary resource for both Singapore and India in advancing our relationship and cooperation across a very vast range of areas.
How would you describe your last 9 months in the office?
In one word, very busy, very engaging, very diverse. I'm also learning a great deal about the region, about the new trends in technology, economy, politics of the region. This is a great place in terms of its intellectual standards, its scholarship about the region of East Asia, Southeast Asia, which is obviously at the center of global attention, and it's changing rapidly. This is also the hub of global economy, finance, and trade. So for me, it's a very enriching experience, both personally and as also in terms of the different ways in which we can realize the full potential of this relationship. What I found here is there is a really high level of desire and interest in India being more engaged in this region, in particular with Singapore. They see great potential there, the political relations, the level of goodwill, all of that is at the highest level.
The big event that the Indian High Commission is planning soon, I'm talking about the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Can you confirm whether this event is coming to Singapore and when?
We are celebrating 25 years of India-ASEAN partnership, which will culminate in a commemorative summit in Delhi in January. But ahead of that, we want to host an India-ASEAN Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. This is a regional Pravasi Bharatiya Divas focused on the Indian diaspora in the ASEAN region. This is going to take place in Singapore on 6th and 7th January 2018 at Marina Bay Sands Convention Center. The choice of Singapore was obvious. For one, as I've said, it is at the heart of ASEAN. It has been, in some sense, our gateway to the East, our springboard to greater engagement with ASEAN. It has an extraordinary Indian diaspora. So it reflects both the centrality of Singapore in our engagement with ASEAN and the emergence of a really vibrant, talented community of Indians living in Singapore. So we're looking forward to the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. This is also going to highlight both the ancient relationship, ancient human bonds, let me put it this way, between India and ASEAN, which is evident on the streets and the monuments and the culture and the food and the festivals across this region. But even more to say that how diaspora will be an important part of a new journey between India and ASEAN in the 21st century.
And I think it won't be wrong to say that a big part of it has been played by the leadership, the way the Prime Minister has positioned us. You have worked very closely with him. What do you attribute his unprecedented and overwhelming popularity in the Indian diaspora across the world? He was here in Singapore in 2015, and the Singapore Expo had 20,000 people. I don't think that many people have ever come in Singapore Expo otherwise. So that's like totally unprecedented.
Very simple. He represents hope and confidence and belief that good governance, good economics and good politics will drive India's growth and prosperity and its positive and constructive role in the world. I think the diaspora anywhere in the world, no matter where they live, how many time zones away from India, they have an interest, they have a stake, they have an emotional connection with India. So in him, they see, as people in India do, a great hope for India's progress. And therefore there is definitely that connect that comes with it. That's one side of it. The other is that he himself has connected wonderfully well with the Indian community abroad. Now, it is not just a show, or it's not just something which he does for the sake of emotions, or that has a role over there, but also because he sees, and he has traveled extensively even before he became Prime Minister, how well the Indian diaspora has done abroad, how wonderful they are as a window to our heritage and India's progress and India's talent, and how much they are willing to contribute and give back to India. So he's shown a very high level and maybe an unprecedented level of emotional connection with them, given them a level of priority that is perhaps not seen before, sees a critical role for them in India's journey ahead in every aspect. Also because, you know, I mean, there is unquestionably one of the best communicators you can think of. I have been in so many of his events where he has addressed mammoth crowds from Wembley Stadium and Madison Square Gardens to Sydney and Singapore and Fiji and all over the place. And he is able to understand not just the broader sentiments of the diaspora, but how they work in each country, what is so special about the community in each country and in each region, and what is it that they want to understand here, what is that they want to, what they expect from him. It is that level of attention to details also. So he takes this very seriously, this relationship. And it is translated, of course, into the way the External Affairs Minister has elevated.
Just about to ask about her.
She has, I think, probably raised the level of digital diplomacy or use of digital technology to connect or to change the way citizens and government interact with each other. See, what this social media or digital technology has done is that it has completely opened a new way in which state and citizens can engage with each other. Every individual can have access, potentially, to the leadership, and every leadership can, no matter where they are, the leader can access every individual. Now, this is something which has changed completely, because no matter where you are in the world,
you feel you can reach out to your External Affairs Minister,
yes,
and that's such a huge thing.
Help
Yeah.
is only 140 characters away. So with her, you know, and we know that if someone tweets to her, the response is immediate, positive, and a follow-up never stops.
Tell me, sir, missions across the world have organized Pravasi Bharatiya Divas before to much success. What is going to be so special about the Singapore edition? Any unique elements that are going to be part of this event in Singapore in particular?
Well, I think Pravasi Bharatiya Divas have been held in different parts of the world, and they've generally been successful. They've drawn great responses in the United States, North America as well. Here, of course, one important thing is that it is part of India-ASEAN 25-year strategic partnership. It's part of that celebration. Second, we expect great and strong support from the host government, which is the government of Singapore, and that is so important for the success of this event. You will see a full range of activities. We do expect people of eminence to participate and speak about their vision of India-ASEAN relations, but also of the role that diaspora will play in this. As you know, that the theme that we have chosen is Ancient Root, New Journey, Diaspora in the Dynamic India-ASEAN Partnership. That is the theme that will be there. But I think what is going to set this apart, and that is what our vision is, that how do we want to tap as much of the youth talent, both of those whose ancestors came here generations ago, as also of those who may have come here to this region as the new Indian professional in the last 20 years. And what we want to do is to focus on the things that are the key drivers of this century, on innovation, technology, startups. We want to run events which will involve participation of the youth here as well.
Basically to build a connect with those who have kind of disconnected or feel a little alienated.
Well, I think that, what I find over here is a great desire to connect with India. What we want to do is to be able to create channels, to create platforms that can enable them to connect more with India. It is not just, we don't intend this to be a one-off event that celebrates this wonderful in diaspora here, or do this simply as part of 25 years of India-ASEAN, but to use this as a springboard to deepen those connections.
One thing that people still talk about is that doing business in India is very difficult, and that is one area that the government has really been focusing a lot, the kind of stuff that has come out of the central government or the state governments, the kind of assurance or comfort they're trying to give. Do you think we've been able to do well in giving people that comfort or that assurance that it's a good place to come and do business now?
This is actually it follows from, I think that we've done quite well in terms of getting it on track, but it's a long journey. We are extremely conscious of the need not only to be open to do business, but for people to find it easy, smooth and predictable. That is as important as the opportunities we create. So during the process of reforms, particularly in the last 3 years, Prime Minister has really emphasized that doing the thing right is as important as doing the right thing, which is that we need to focus not just on the big bang reforms, and he's done many of those, from GST to demonetization to a really liberal FDI regime, but to really improve the processes through which people can enter, establish business, operate, comply with regulations, pay their taxes, and if necessary, leave the business with ease. Or if they enter into disputes, have an easy, predictable mechanisms to resolve those disputes. So this is the entire project life cycle, and we're focusing at every level. We're also trying to improve, of course, the supply side issues of infrastructure and skills and credit and capital flows. It will be important, let me emphasize that, over the course of the last 3 years, we've done away with nearly 200 laws. They've been eliminated, but no one noticed that they've gone. It just shows how redundant many of those laws are, and they're just legacies of the past. We have removed at least 600-700 processes. There has been specifically 7,100 measures of reforms that have been introduced by the central government and the state governments combined over the past 3 years. 7,100 specific steps of reforms. So it's not and it's not just happening at the center, it's happening also at the, remember in India, it's not so much the central government, but the state governments that have a major impact on business enterprises. And the states today are competing on 285 parameters of ease of doing business, which has been set up by Niti Aayog and DIPP. And some of the states are consistently achieving scores of 90% or more. But the trajectory is right, and the direction and the pace is very good, and it is all evident in the figures that keep coming in.
And like you mentioned, it's the pace that really matters, because that gives the confidence to the investors to come and invest. Now, on a personal note, how has Singapore, treated you in the last 9 months that you have been here?
Oh, Singapore's been absolutely wonderful. I have no complaints whatsoever. And first of all, let me say that the government here has been very open, very welcoming. The leadership it has been absolutely easy for me to engage with them, to meet them, to talk to them. They are very open. We discuss all issues very candidly, and we see nothing but a desire to see this relationship scale greater heights. There's great expectations from India, a sense of keenness to move forward at a more rapid pace, and all this is, I think, a source of great optimism for the relationship. I have met a very wide cross-section of people across the entire community, not just in the Indian community, but others as well. They've been very warm and welcoming. The city has, I would only have one complaint, it's kept us so busy that I haven't explored the city as much as I would like to. Yes.
Any favorite spots here so far?
Before I get to that, I think, there are many things that you can enjoy over here. You have great nature parks to walk in, and I have done that in quite a few places. Great street food to fine dining. There are some of the older parts that have been preserved are very, very beautiful, and they've been done with great taste and elegance. So it's nice to go to even Little India, which I have barely done, or to Chinatown, or to some of the other little narrow streets. But I also have found that these places of worship here, of all faiths, they're also a remarkable testimony to Singapore's physical, social, and emotional character. I think what they have done in terms of building a multicultural society is truly remarkable. It isn't just constitutionally guaranteed rights. It isn't just about coexistence, but it is about a conscious effort at every level, conscious, persistent, and consistent effort to ensure that people embrace this diversity and pluralism.
And feel so integrated.
Yes.
That's
So it's one thing to say, people use the word, oh, tolerance. Tolerance sometimes seems like a negative word. But here you see a conscious effort, and it is not something which comes naturally to human beings. It doesn't come naturally, or something that is inevitable. But here is a society that has made, from leadership down to the people, a conscious effort to integrate, to embrace each other. And I think that is one of the fundamental pillars that is response. It's not visible, it is not tangible, it cannot be defined in economic terms, but I think this is one of the reasons why this is such a successful, prosperous country.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for talking to Connected to India.
Great.